Hi, this is Alex from phpacademy.org with a video tutorial for the new Boston. In this tutorial we're going to be taking a look at the this selector. Now I call it a this selector, however it's not categorized as an actual selector, but what it does is it allows us to reference a particular object that we're currently working with or inside. So for example, if we were to create a button and wanted this button to be clicked and then the text on it on this button to be changed, we can do so by referencing it using this. And this saves a lot of time with using selectors to reference a particular object, where in actual fact we only need to reference it once, and inside a particular function we can use this. So if you're unsure what I'm talking about, I'm going to go ahead and give you an example. So I'm going to go ahead and create a button on my page, so an input type button, and I'm going to assign a value as click me. Now when I click this button I want the value to change to please wait or something like that. You'll probably notice that on a lot of websites when you click a button, for example payment buttons, the text will change and it will disable the button, and this is just so the button can't be clicked twice. Now we're only going to be changing the value of this, we're not going to be disabling it, but obviously you can go ahead, Google around for how you would disable a button. Now I'm going to give this an ID and I'm just going to call it button, for example, and we use this ID to select this button. So let's go over to our browser and just take a look at that. You can see that we've got our click me button here. When we click it we need to assign an event handler for something to happen. Now let's say we had this click me button, we could do absolutely anything once we've assigned an event handler to it. We can display a message, we can submit a form, we can load a different page. It's entirely up to you how you use this. However, let's go and focus on how we can use this. Okay, so I've already included this selectors.js file into my page as well as jQuery, because obviously we're making use of jQuery. However, the selectors.js file is just simply an external JavaScript file that we're going to be writing our code in. We're keeping our JavaScript in an external file. So we can go ahead and use a selector to reference this particular button and then perform an action, and this action will be to change the value of this button. So let's go over to selectors.js and let's go ahead and use a selector to reference button. Now we've used a hash because we're using an ID here, and the name of the button is button. This value here is not to be confused with this type here. For example, if I call this button click, I would then change this to button click, and I think we'll leave it at that. Okay, so now we want to use a dot to bind an event handler, and this event handler is click. And inside here we need a function. Now let's go ahead and do this the wrong way, how we shouldn't really do it, and then we'll go ahead and look at changing this to make use of the this keyword. Okay, so when this button is clicked, let's go ahead and test the functionality, and I'm just going to alert out a dialog box saying clicked. So when I click this button now, you see that we have this alert dialog saying clicked. So we know that the clicking of our button has worked, but what we actually want to go ahead and do is change the value of this. So we can use the attr function in jQuery, which stands for attribute, and we would normally go ahead and say button underscore click dot attr. And what this will do, you can specify a value in the first parameter, which is value. Essentially what we're doing is we're changing an attribute of this button, and the attribute we want to change is the value, which is currently set to click me. Now if we want to go ahead and change this to something, we can. So I could say please wait. So what's going to happen now is when we click on our button, we're again selecting our button and changing the attribute value to please wait. So let's go ahead and check out how this works. When I click this button, you see it changes to please wait. So quite an easy piece of code and quite effective. However, if you're using a reference to a particular object within inside a function a lot, you can go ahead and eliminate the need to re-reference this or reselect this button, and you can do that using the this selector. Now like I said, it's not an actual jQuery selector, however the reason I'm doing this tutorial is just to demonstrate the functionality of this. Now what this will do is it will pick up the current element that we're working with. So essentially by replacing it with this, JavaScript automatically replaces this with button click. So it's a good coding practice to get into by using this, as opposed to keep re-referencing a particular element on your page. So now when we refresh, you can see that it works in exactly the same way just by using this. So like I've said, this is a better way to write your code in terms of in terms of using this keyword here, as opposed to referencing this over and over again. Now the reason for this is, let's just say you had lots of references back to this button inside of here. You might have, for example, some more code down here that did something else. What happens if we go ahead and change this button ID? We might just change it to button, for example. Now what we would have to do if we had constantly applied this text here, this selector here, is we would have to go and change every single thing on our page. So some more code down here might make use of this selector. So by using this, we can automatically just determine which element that we're currently working with. So you can see it would be a lot easier to change if you had, say 200-300 lines of code and you were using a selector each time. So by using this, you're creating a static version of this original selector. So that's this selector in jQuery or just in JavaScript, an extremely effective way to program.